So I'm going to build the upper half of this cabinet here. This part, the upper part, it's built in 2 sections. This rail will go horizontal all the way through. Otherwise, I can't have a good connection point. I think that's the best way to do it. This is the side. It's a really deep cabinet. This is the bottom. Do like I always do these things, just butt them together. Do a temporary nail. The outside is not going to be seen. Persuasion tool. It's nice and flush. My countersink with the 1/8 of an inch bit. 1 5/8, 8 by 1 5/8 screws. And just do the whole box like that with those screws. And here I have to force it in a little bit. I'm going to use the nail gun. Okay. And then tack on this side. Pre-drill. 1 5/8 screw. And then I do the same all the way around the whole cabinet. Need to belt sand this a little bit. Okay, since the bottom shelf is 13 3/4 of an inch, I use these out here to mark where that line's going to be. So that's the bottom. So I'll go up 3/8 from that. You can use one of these. Do the same on this side. That's to mark location in the first shelf. This is the upper cabinet, so we'll point the good side down. Same thing on this side. And then I put the shelf locators. How's that? Shelf locators. And the next shelf, same deal. Just nail it on and then screw it in. It's as easy as that. Just make sure that's all properly seated. Nothing's weird about it. So these are the parts that I'm going to make the face frame parts with. The Rift White Oak, you can see it varies quite a bit in the grain, and some of it looks like quarter sawn like that, and it does kind of vary, so it's hard to find exactly the same look pieces, but this will work. So there you go. So the bottom rail is going to be not between but underneath. And that's because I'm doing 2 separate cabinets and I want the seam to be seamless. And at the top, it's going to be like that. The other ones in between, I'm going to place them after I figure out exactly where the shelves are. If I go by math, I might end up a little bit in the wrong spot. Okay, this one I'm just going to put 2 right in the center there.
It goes like that. This one, okay, a little bit of glue. Clamp that sucker. Okay, well that wasn't good. All right, let's do this again. That last one cracked. So I'm gonna have to pre-drill, see if I can find the right bit for that. Okay, I've got a better solution on this one. So we're going to use the wood glue, clamp it. This time I have a drill bit on an extension. Okay, that's a great connection. Feels totally flush, it's good. Now we're going to flip it around right here. Let's check it on this far end and see how that, see that? That's perfect. So bring it over here, put some glue in there. I'm using 1.5" screws. As long as I don't go too far, I think they should be fine. That 1/8" bit is almost too loose, but still bites. It's good. So this is the bottom of the cabinet, and I've placed it exactly where I want it, and with a 1/4" lip on the inside. So with that, I'm going to mark exactly where these shelves are. So I made these filler pieces to mark where the rail goes based upon the situation now where these are at exactly. So with this here, I just make sure I grab the right side, and I want to put pocket holes here and here. 2 holes. Put some glue on there, both sides. Okay. But you know what? I didn't even clamp it. Why did I do that? Okay, we're properly clamped now. Pre-drill this one too. I miss my framing table. I really do. That thing was so nice. Feeling I'm going back to square zero. Okay. All right, so I put the top on, and I used a staple gun to do that, and now I'm just going to screw it off and be done with this particular cabinet. I usually put screws about 6 or 8 inches apart. For this, I'm going to use my drywall gun. I do that when I got a lot of repetitive screwing to do. Seems to go maybe a hair faster, not having to think about how much to set it. This has an automatic setting on it. A little hard on my shoulders here. Probably doesn't need it, but I'll put a screw in the middle on the shelves. And now for the skids, I'm going to go this way because it's a shorter distance, I think. Whoops, it's longer than I expected. Hang on. Forgot to cut them to length. Let's see here. Let's put over. So you see, I decided to do pocket holes to attach the face frame to this cabinet. Let's go ahead and add the pocket holes to this one. And then the top or bottom. Sometimes that wood has a lot of glue or something. It's hard to drill, and sometimes it drills easy. I don't know if I need that many holes. Plywood sure is furry. All right, so pocket screws are in the front, bottom. You won't be able to see it from that side, but it has pocket screws on the right side. Okay, middle. Okay, that's good. I don't know how many times I can show drilling a hole. I'm afraid it's gonna have to go up a little bit there. Perfect. All right, and now this side. This is the top. This way. I always think I can build these cabinets like really fast, and it takes me a lot longer than I expect. So the next step is to make some sticks to hold the shelves up temporarily while I screw and nail them in. Okay, so I've got everything. I've got my filler pieces for the correct there. So I screwed it all off. I made my line so I knew where that was, and screwed this side off. Now we're gonna take these right here and put them up here and do the next shelf. Okay, I just finished putting in this shelf using these things to hold it up while I nail and screw it. I've probably got about a pound of screws into this cabinet. Okay, not that much, but there's a lot of screws. All right. And now it just needs the back and the face frame. This is the front, because I'm gonna this time pocket screw the frame on. Because of the shelves, I'll leave the back off. I'll put the frame on first. So on the back side of the frame, I believe it's a really good idea to ease that edge a little bit before you place it on your cabinet so that you don't have to deal with it when it's on the cabinet. Just make sure if you're flushing up the shelf itself that edge you keep sharp. And that's about it. And I'm laying it out this way because I want to make sure that my frame, it's on there loose right now, is correct. And I used it to help locate these one at a time, and I screwed those on. So everything's good. I need to put this frame on, but you can see here where the two cabinets meet, decided to go with horizontal, so it looks kind of obvious as far as why there's that seam will not be obvious. In other words, this is against a wall, this side. This is the bottom. And this side gets a piece of 1/2 inch that'll cover the whole side and hide the seam on the job site. I don't have to set up for dados, and it's not necessary on fixed shelving, especially where you have things covering your screws. Not a problem. Been doing it forever like that. So I got the frame on there. Everything went okay, but I should have used Titebond 3 and I didn't. And it made it tough because some of these shelves were a little bowed and it was hard to push them back down. And that's why I'm doing this, because it got stuck on like a bow up, and because of the wood glue had already started hardening. So suggestion for anybody doing this, putting a frame on that you suspect is going to take a little bit of time, use Type Bond 3. This one was done using clamps, and this one I just now finished with pocket screws. And I didn't have 1.5 inch face frame screws, but my 1.25 inch assembly screws work just fine for that. You can see these are, let's see if you can see that. See, they're Phillips, they're not those usual square drive. All right, so all you haters out there that are gonna diss on me for doing that, go ahead. So as a final touch on the cabinets, I use a 1/8 inch round over bit. I don't quite do the full 1/8 inch. I leave a little bit because I'll just sand the last little bit. I have to file the corners a little bit. I'll show you that right there. And I don't quite have it flush because I do a little sanding. I don't know, I just like it that way. So I added fill to a little bit of the seam. Probably didn't need it, but just for safety. What I do is I take this router, and then you can see the corners here need a little bit of work with a file. And this file seems to be working pretty good. It has one fine edge. And I just very carefully kind of just round it. Make sure it lines up with the other radius. It doesn't take much. And a little bit of sandpaper. There's always parts you never really talk about, all the fillers and crown pieces, toe kick faces, things you need for an install that takes a little time to prep and get ready. Here's this big side panel that I got to be super careful when I deliver it. And you know, here's the 2 boxes I'm going to deliver, as well as let's see, these cabinets over here. Installation tools back there, and I got to gather up some tools that also go to the job site. There's a lot of little things that occur, like the bottom of this cabinet needed filler pieces in order to be flush on the bottom, because even though it's face frame, it's next to a frameless cabinet. So the toe kicks, this would have been a jog, and it would have I would have had to fill this in at the site. So I saw that and I go, okay, let's fill that. This plant-on piece is necessary for a crown filler. In this case, the crown is going to be flush with the frame itself. I should ease this edge as well. Down the side, and then there's another cabinet here that's frameless. So it makes it a little bit challenging sometimes, because I have a panel coming up here, 1/2 inch panel, but my crown is going to be flush with it at 3/4 thick. So I had to recess that. You can see this is where that seam is. We're going to apply a 1/2 inch panel here. And the scribe, it's a good thing I put a big scribe on here. I got to remove 3/4 on the bottom all the way to 0 on the top. And I use this wonderful simplescribe.com. It has different measurements on there. So I use just like that. And then you would turn it different ways for different scribe. That would be a 7/8 1/4 inch. So that's 1/4. So yeah, that's 1/4 there. This back wall is falling away at the top, flush at the bottom there. All right, so we got the scribed in. Shoot, a little bit of a ding there. So in order to scribe this piece, I clamp at a certain distance from the edge. It's touching down here on the bottom. And so that's my scribe line. It's 5/8, and then it reduces to almost nothing near the top. It's going to be an upper cabinet here. The only place that's really exposed is right about here in the middle where there's a base cabinet.
So I added these pieces up here in order to make the filler proud of the cabinet. I kind of changed my mind when I was in the field. Okay, so this is the final installed product after the top was put on and finished and everything. These are both frameless up against the face frame cabinet. This has like a 1/4 inch lip on each side behind this frame. In order to, if you wanted to make that flush, that's just a lot of extra unnecessary work in my viewpoint. So some people would want that to be flush, I'm guessing, but you really don't see the difference, and it's a lot of effort for a lot of work for not a lot of return. So I just leave a lip there on that. It makes it a lot easier to make a nice straight line and not have to sand and make that flush on both sides. That would be a lot of work. It's enough work to have to flush it on every shelf. That's my viewpoint on that. And here's more of the upper, that's a closer view so you can see that. What I did here on these top pieces is I made a small round over, and this is actually proud of this. So it's a little bit projecting out, just maybe 1/8 of an inch or 3/16, even on the side. That gives it that separate look, kind of like there's a gap here. I didn't really have a way to make a gap here, but I made these completely different as far as their plane. So like I said, this is out a little bit from this, and I think that's a good look overall. So I'm showing this base area to show you how the countertop and this interact. This cabinet, I always make it deeper than the base cabinet if it's a really tall one with a counter next to it, so the counter doesn't project past it. So this kind of shows that a little bit better. So here's a really good picture of that seam that turned out really nice. Did a video of routing this to make it nice and smooth and flush, but I don't know what happened to the video. Sorry about that. And this shot here is a real close-up of what's going on the ceiling and the side filler. So the door in this area is not as thick. It's not 3/4 thick. So I had to shave these down to be flush with this. So this is actually, at least I think that's what I did, that this is 5/8 thick in order to be flush here with this part of the door. And here's a transition that kind of shows that, where this is pretty flush and then it goes and it's just proud of this side piece here. Hope that's not too much detail for you. And here's the underside of that upper, just to show you what I did there. There's a tacked on piece of solid 3/4 inch going across, and you can see the nails there. Because these doors come below the cabinet and it's unfinished, when it comes time to install, I have to add a piece underneath. This is 3/4 and there's a little lip behind it, but you couldn't tell. And then here's a full 1/2 inch piece that's going wall to wall. And yeah, the fit isn't perfect here. There's a little bit of a gap. Sorry for that. I don't think it's going to be too noticeable. I always try to make it as tight as possible though. Okay. And I kind of wanted to show what happens in the toe kick area. I was saying before that this tall cabinet is face frame and this is frameless. And that's why I added a piece underneath here so that it sits on this toe kick. And otherwise it would drop down on top of the toe kick and I would have to have added a piece in the field. So I filled that so that it'd end up flush, just like the frameless cabinet box next to it. So here's a picture of before the countertop went on, so you can see how that works. And that's why this is set back approximately 1.5 or 2 inches, so that counter overhang will not reach past this front of this tall cabinet. Okay. Okay, so again, I think it turned out really nice, and I hope that helped you to see how to build something like this as far as fixed shelving goes, and kind of how it might integrate with some other cabinets. And if you enjoyed the video and it helped you with your project, if you would like to have further content like this, just please subscribe. And again, I thank you for your support of this channel. See ya.